This is the one day of the year when many of us fill Facebook and other social media places with posts of appreciation for what some still refer to as Mother Earth. But how much do we care the rest of the year? To mark this Earth Day, we're going to meet a young woman whose appreciation is an everyday habit. Véronica Sullivan of Comfort Cove has spent much of the past decade hiking in remote wilderness areas of Canada and beyond, and she's an advocate for the natural world who isn't afraid to speak out, and she joins me on the line now. Hello.
Hello.
So, having hiked in many places in Canada and beyond, as I just mentioned, how would you describe the experience of the natural world in Newfoundland and Labrador by comparison?
Oh, my goodness. Well, first of all, I want to say I'm so passionate about this province and the wilderness and nature that we have on our doorstep. I've hiked and spent months and actually years of my life now walking in places like the Southwest USA, the Arctic, the Himalayas, Patagonia, and I want to say that Newfoundland is up there with all of those remote and spectacular places in terms of the freedom that you have, the untouched wilderness that we still have, and just the vastness of it, and the fact that you can walk for days across these wide expanses in the interior of Newfoundland and Labrador and not see a single other human structure or road or anything like that. It's truly something very special and something that's fast disappearing from other places in the world.
How important do you think it is for us to get out and see and smell and hear and experience the natural world as often as possible, every day if we could?
Yeah. I think it's wired into us as human beings. You know, a lot of times we think of the wilderness as something separate from us, but we are part of nature. You know, we live on this planet. We are part of this great system of all living things. So to think of wilderness and nature as other, I think is the root of a lot of our problems today in society. You know, this idea of anthropocentrism, that we are, you know, arrogantly allowed to do whatever we want to the natural world, and that's okay. And we think that because our connection to the natural world is lost. You know, for a lot of us, we live in houses, we live in these boxes, and then we drive in climate-controlled cars to our climate-controlled jobs, and then head back home via our cars once again, and we don't even have to be outside. We can order things from halfway across the world online and not even think about what that took for it to get to us. And it's a separation from the natural world, I think, that drives this pervasive loneliness or this sense of unfulfillment that a lot of us feel today. And I think being outdoors and being in nature can really open the door to seeing the world as this web of everything being connected and reciprocity between humans and the rest of the natural world, and how what we do affects nature and nature in turn affects us. So just this sense of connectivity. Yeah.
You mentioned a minute ago about the spectacular wilderness that we're fortunate to have in Newfoundland and Labrador. But do you think that even here, where it's sometimes literally at our doorstep or not very far, that disconnection is seen too often?
I do. I really do. And honestly, these past several months, and actually the past 2 years, the proposed mega projects, the wind to hydrogen mega projects that have been touted, are really weighing heavily on my soul, and I think on the minds of a lot of people who live in rural Newfoundland and who are used to this wilderness. You know, we take for granted what we have. Our clean water, our clean air, our forests and our rivers, and the destruction that industry brings to a place, is not easily reversed, and a lot of times cannot be reversed. And I think we take so much for granted, and we expect that, we live in a wilderness, so the rest of the world must be similar too. I think we lose sight of how important it is and how precious it is and how rare it's becoming. And also we tend to think about, jobs and the economy, because a lot of, rural Newfoundland is hurting economically right now. And so we think, oh, well, these kinds of industrial activities could be good for us. But in reality, what harms the planet, what harms nature will come back to harm us. And I don't think there's any point in, having a job or, making money if it means that our natural world is destroyed in the process.
I guess one of the arguments that we hear in favor of these mega projects, and in particular the World Energy GH2 proposal, is that industry and nature can coexist, and that the proponents of these sorts of projects are doing all they can to minimize environmental impact.
They do say that, but I have a lot of trouble putting my faith in the government, to be honest. I feel like people, individuals, they're the ones who make a difference. And I think, to me, it's been obvious that governments cause problems, and they really are aligned with corporations and this consumer capitalist machine that runs our world currently. And so, the fact that they say this, you have to also look at what they're thinking about. And they're thinking about the money that they can make, really. They've got no long-term vision for what this will do to our province and, coincidentally, to the world. And these projects, too, if you look really deeply into them, you'll find out that they are not green at all. They involve shipping massive amounts of hydrogen overseas on diesel-powered boats. None of the energy produced will go to Newfoundland or to communities, which would really need them. And the amount of water that they will be using, the amount of fresh water needed to produce hydrogen is staggering. I think by WEGH2's own environmental impact statement, they state that at peak consumption, they would need 2.3 million liters of water per hour. That means, I think I did the math, and that would be 22 Olympic-sized swimming pools worth of water per day of fresh water. 22 swimming pools per day. And that water gets out of the water cycle and doesn't come back. It's used in electrolysis. So when you consider that water is life, and water is what gives life to the soil, to the trees, to the rivers, it affects our fishery, it affects our hunting grounds, berry picking, all these traditional lifestyles are going to be affected by this. And blasting away the mountains and polluting rivers and streams and, light pollution and all of that, I don't see the benefit. I don't see the benefit to that at all, and I don't believe that you can build these massive mega projects and say they are good for the environment, because the truth is they're not. And projects that are good for the environment are localized projects, built for and for the communities, by the communities, these grassroots, small-scale projects. And I think that if we continue to think about mega projects and industries and big corporations trying to solve the world's problems, I don't think we're going to get anywhere. I think Albert Einstein had a really great quote, and I just want to say it right now. It's that we cannot solve the world's problems with the same kind of thinking we had when we caused them. So I think we need to shift our thinking away from these huge mega technological solutions and focus on regaining a personal, individualized connection with the land, shifting our mindset away from this notion that humans are better than everything else and we have dominion over everything. We need to shift away from that. I
do need to I just think that, there will be people listening who don't agree with you, who will say, small scale projects don't generate the kind of economic activity we need to support communities and to give people decent lives.
Well, I think if you think of one small localized project, of course, that one project is not going to solve, the world's problems. But if we have many small local projects, if every single community could work on becoming as sustainable and regenerative as possible, I think we could totally transform the face of this world. And it comes down to, very, very simple solutions like funding public transit, for one thing, or encouraging localized food production. So we're not shipping things from around the world, shipping food from halfway around the world. We can grow it here. We have the means to do it, things like permaculture. That's all extremely important. And of course, you can have small-scale energy projects, like small-scale wind farms for the community or solar or what have you. But I think the focus needs to be on diminishing our consumption and, cutting away all this waste that we produce and thinking about ways that, we can live using less energy.
Veronica, you've been thinking this through, and you make your points are very articulate. So thanks so much for joining us and talking to us about these issues today.
Thank you so much for having me.
That is Véronica Sullivan of Comfort Cove. If you'd like to comment on any on-the-go story that you hear, if you'd like to offer up a question we should ask, please call our talkback line, 709-576-5207 or 1-800-465-6846. You can also get in touch with us via email. The address is onthego@cbc.ca.